Let's talk first about boycott, divestment, and sanctions of Israel. During your tenure as mayor, the Hamtramck City Council passed a resolution supporting the boycott of Israel, divestment from Israel, and sanctions of Israel. So you voted for it.
I didn't vote for it.
This morning, Washington got an answer to a question no one expected Donald Trump to touch. But he did, and he did it with a smile. During a press gaggle outside the White House, a reporter shouted the question that instantly froze the entire crowd. Mr. President, is Ted Cruz running in 2028? And would you support him? Trump didn't hesitate. He leaned forward, adjusted the mic, and delivered something that shocked both parties. Ted Cruz is a tremendous guy, a patriot, one of the strongest voices in the Senate. If he runs well, he'd be very tough to beat. Just like that, the man Trump once called Lion Ted in 2016 is suddenly his new political golden boy. And the timing, suspiciously perfect, because only hours before Trump made his remarks, Ted Cruz had just wrapped up a major announcement from Austin, Texas, praising the work of his 2025 Service Academy Nominations Board, the group responsible for selecting the most elite young Texans for admission into America's top military academies. Cruz framed it as routine Senate work, but insiders say this felt different, bigger, almost like the opening move of a long-game political play. Trump praising Cruz on the exact same day. That wasn't an accident. But while the cameras captured the smiles, Washington insiders saw something else entirely. The moment the bill passed, phones started buzzing across Capitol Hill, not with relief but with warnings. Quiet messages. Off-the-record calls. A single phrase repeated again and again. This isn't over. Because behind closed doors, the shutdown didn't end a fight. It created a battlefield. Trump's inner circle believes the Democrats blinked first, and they're already planning to make them pay for it. One senior advisor, speaking anonymously, described the next phase in one chilling sentence. The president thinks he just proved they'll break before he does. And that's the danger. Because while the government is reopening, trust in Washington is collapsing. Agencies are scrambling to restart operations. Millions of Americans are wondering how close they came to real damage. And inside the West Wing, aides are whispering that Trump is more energized and more unpredictable than ever. Meanwhile, on the Hill, Democrats aren't celebrating either. A handful of leaders are already preparing investigations, hearings, and subpoenas. One strategist said they're treating this moment like the calm before the thunderstorm. Everyone knows what comes next: retaliation, leaks, and political warfare. The shutdown may be over, but Washington hasn't taken a breath. It's holding one. And while the political class dissected every vote and every statement, something far more important was happening outside Washington. Across the country, ordinary Americans, federal workers, business owners, families were looking at the last few weeks and seeing something the politicians refused to admit. They saw a government willing to gamble with their livelihoods. They saw leaders who talked about principles while real people missed paychecks, delayed medical treatments, and struggled to stay afloat. And they saw, maybe for the first time, how fragile everything truly is. Airports didn't shut down because of politics. They shut down because people were exhausted, unpaid, and pushed to their limit. Food inspections didn't stall because of ideology. They stalled because the people who do that work couldn't show up forever for nothing. And the longer the shutdown dragged on, the clearer it became. The system wasn't designed for a standoff this long, and it nearly broke. Behind the scenes, cabinet officials quietly warned the White House that critical agencies were about to reach operational failure. Intelligence briefings flagged growing risks. Even corporate CEOs began calling senators, urging them to intervene before real damage rippled across the economy. But no one said that publicly. On camera, the narrative was simple. The president stood firm. The opposition held their ground, and the shutdown was just another Washington fight. Off camera, everyone knew it was a disaster avoided by inches. And now, with the government finally open again, people aren't asking who won. They're asking something far more dangerous. What happens when the next crisis comes? And Washington plays the same game. And just when Washington thought the chaos was finally over, it happened. Late last night, long after the cameras were gone and the Senate floor had emptied, a classified alert flashed across the secure network. A message so urgent that senior staff were pulled out of bed and rushed back into the Capitol. The alert mentioned one thing, one name, and a timestamp that shouldn't exist. Because according to the document, someone inside the White House had known exactly when the shutdown would end, 48 hours before negotiations even began. And the signature on that document. It wasn't the president's, it wasn't the speaker's, it belonged to someone who shouldn't have had that. Level of access, someone who hasn't been seen in public for months. The file ends with a single line. Phase 2 begins now. Washington froze. Phones went dark. Security teams were activated. And in the next 12 hours, the first piece of Phase 2 would be revealed. But not to the public. Not yet. Because what's coming is bigger than the shutdown, bigger than the bill. And dangerous enough that even senior officials are whispering one question. What exactly did we just reopen the government for?